All right, I want to talk today about three types of storytelling that you can use in your memoir. And the final part of this will be talking about how you can actually combine these three types into even one particular chapter. So the first type so let me give you a little background first. So when we first started telling stories as a civilization, plays were really one of the first types of storytelling we used, and Shakespeare plays, and that they were built on scenes. So there's scene by scene sort of presentation of the story. Well, then novels came around, and they adopted that scene by scene writing, and so a lot of traditional novels are built upon scene by scene writing even today. Well, then, for nonfiction, that took a long time to sort of happen. There was always sort of like newspaper journalism and sort of autobiography, but it was really like in the 1970s or so that the journalists, for example, began seizing upon the techniques of novelists and the scene writing and brought that into their writing. And so now with memoir, for example, scene writing is a very important part of it. So I want to talk first about scenes, and scenes are, where time slows down and where the lens, if you're a movie director, the lens sort of comes up close. We see you, sweating. We see the lines on your face. We get to know what you're feeling. We get to know how bright the sun is or how hard it's raining. But there's a way in which a scene is sort of coming really close into you are there kind of storytelling. And so that's one particular type of storytelling we use in memoir, and we use it a lot. The second type is summary or anecdotes. And anecdotes are sort of tidy stories, and they might be one paragraph long, or they might be 2 or 3 paragraphs long. In the summer of 1987, I went through a lot of changes. The first thing I did is I bought a bicycle, and the next thing I did is I rode from LA to San Francisco, and after that I rode to Reno, and then after that I rode all the way to Austin, Texas. There's a certain way that you're just telling a story in a blow-by-blow way. There's few details, few sensory details, if any. And so that's another type of storytelling we use in memoir. And in that version, you kind of have you're almost, if you're a zoom lens, you're sort of up in space. There's just, you just have a very minimal view of just the basic facts, but told in a story. Well, the third type is what I call kind of a blended form, or the other name I have for it is kind of evocative summary, which and that's sort of a mixture of the two. It's sort of like, let's say you go on a drive and you pull onto the highway. You take a sip of coffee. It tastes bitter and sweet. You have a feeling in your heart that you're sad about something. You pass a road sign for a gas station, and you pass another road sign for a McDonald's. You're steering the car. You go over a big bump. I mean, there's a way in which you're kind of mixing the two forms, and it's sort of a longer form of anecdote, but you also are adding a lot of sensory material, maybe inner monologue. So we get to know what you're thinking, how you're feeling. You do get to find out how bright the sun is or how hard the rain is falling, those kinds of things. And that's a very powerful form. And then there's a fourth type, which is sort of a texture. It's sort of using all of these forms in your storytelling or in a particular chapter, for example. So, you could start with a little summary, for example, about, how the summer of 1987 got off to a slow start. You got a job, and then you went to St. Louis for a while. But then as you got to St. Louis, you know, things started to change and you met somebody, and you might slow time down and suddenly you're really in a scene. And so, you know, what began as just summary turns into, you know, we really are feeling your heartbeat as you're on your first date with this person. Your heart is, you know, is just pounding on your chest. You get sweaty palms, and you're quite nervous because you really like this person. And time slows down, and you've really brought the lens from outer space down to you know, really close in. And then you might pull back out, though. As that date is over, you might go back to describing, you know, what happened over the course of the next month. And then it might slow down again. So there's a way to employ all of these things, even in a single chapter. And, you know, what pulls all this together, though, I will say, is action. The more action you have, you know, the stronger your writing will be as you move through these different forms of storytelling. And another way to think about action is desire. You know, it's sort of like, what do you desire to have happen, and what's getting in the way of that? You know, if you're riding your bike across the country, you know, you really want to get across the country, you really want to accomplish this, but as you approach the Rocky Mountains, you know, you're starting to have really steep slopes, and you're starting to feel the pain in your thighs, and so I just want to add at the very end that the more action and the more confrontation you have with either the external world or with yourself, the stronger the storytelling will be. So again, just to sum up, you know, you've got summary writing, these short little story nuggets that are tidy. You've got scene writing, in which time slows down. The camera comes up, zooms up inside. We know what you're feeling. We know, you know, we can see the lines on your face and the sweat on your brow. And then we also have kind of a blended form in which you're telling a long story, but you're adding a lot of sensory material. And then finally, we have this sort of using all of them, you know, in a particular story where you can slow time down, you can speed it up, you can bring the camera in close, you can pull it away. So I encourage you to play with all of these things and to add texture to your writing and storytelling.